to introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, to Ty Goddard from the Education Foundation. Ty has been at the forefront of educational innovation in this country for many years, and he's going to be sharing with us some series of insights about current and future EdTech.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So yeah, faultless journey from Sheffield over Edale, sweet memories of Edale, and clearly it all goes wrong when I arrive at the travel lodge in Bolton. So I apologise for being slightly late. I'm delighted to be here. I'm really honoured. I'm here really, I think, essentially to probably give you a break from the PowerPoint, a break from talking about chatbots, and Aftab asked me to just take a quick look and a quick tour of the landscape. What's happening policy-wise? Where are we in terms of schools, colleges and universities? Perhaps throw some things out to you. I'd be really interested in some of your reactions to things, and also, very bluntly, to celebrate what I think is some of the most profound work that is going on here at Bolton College. When we first discovered Bolton's work, obviously not Bolton College, I've known it since I was 8, but we felt, and we published a thing called the EdTech 50 in 2018. In fact, it was something like the EdTech 90. We tried to look at the people, the projects and the products that were beginning to shape education technology in this country. It's a massive sector. It's employing lots of people. Investment in UK EdTech businesses are on the up. Investment in innovations, investment in people is on the increase. The brand of UK education, but the brand of UK EdTech is really, really shining brightly. So I wanted to celebrate Bolton's work and also put to you that there's something very weird and profound in the water in Bolton. Because it is not just this place. We did a, would you believe, we did a camper van tour last September. We literally hired a camper van on the south coast, and within a week we went round the southwest, Wales, over to Northern Ireland, Scotland, the northwest, northeast, and then came back to Birmingham. But one of those stops was Bolton. One of those stops was a school, a primary school, just down the road called Olive Tree Primary. Some of the most fantastic practice, some of the most fantastic teaching and learning that is enabled by EdTech. Also at the grammar school, Boys Division here in Bolton, some of the most fantastic work using education technology to consolidate knowledge, to spark creativity and to enable children, young people, to be thinking about their learning. Some of those young people to actually learn at home and actually stretch the school day, stretch the learning day, and that's in Bolton. And then there's people like Glenn, who sat on the front row here from an EdTech, Neil Education, connected to Bolton. But also you look at the northwest and you think about the number of education technology businesses, and I have to say to you, colleagues, it is absolutely profound. You've got treasure in Bolton. You really have. But I put it to you that, and I listened intently to both of our speakers. I think it's fascinating what's happening in the university sector. I think it is, though, uneven. Right across the EdTech landscape, I wrote today, it's bumpy and uneven. Not every college is like Bolton. Not every university is like Lancaster. Not every research institute is thinking about EdTech in the way that we heard IBM are. It's bumpy. Would it surprise you that only in 2019 in England did we have an education technology strategy published by the Department for Education? 2019, colleagues. Go into most of your schools, go into a lot of schools across the country, and frankly, guess what? There is not the infrastructure, there is not the broadband speeds to facilitate what is happening in the world of technology. So on the one hand, yes, we ought to celebrate. Yes, we celebrate the innovation of Aftab and his team, and indeed the leadership here at Bolton College. But frankly, it is uneven across the country. And there was a moment, I think, in time, and I think it was about 2013-14, and you may remember the upheaval, scrapping ICT in schools, introducing the computing curriculum, but also not thinking about the skills that teachers didn't have to teach computing, not thinking about system design, not thinking about training and professional development for teachers to actually teach that computing curriculum. And what happened? A massive, massive downspin, a downturn in the number of girls actually studying computing. It's only just beginning to rise. A massive downturn in general ICT skills for young people. Why is that? After millions that were spent on the computing curriculum, why did thoughtless implementation lead to those kind of outcomes? And that has to shock us. A policy only in 2019, millions spent by the British BCS, the British Computing Society, computers at school, CAS, and frankly, why have we not seen the results as a society? And I'd argue that what you can't do with digital excellence is just pull a lever in Whitehall and hope everything's going to be okay. You've got to think of this system in all its fragility. Yeah, if you haven't got the infrastructure, you haven't got the broadband speeds going into our schools and supporting our schools, then you're going to find something very, very challenging as it goes. But what we found, and I kid you not about what I think is happening in Bolton, and it's very, very typical, is that the innovators are innovating, those educators are educating with the tool that is education technology, in spite of the system. So what they're doing, and often innovators, and you might be one yourself, or you might know one, you might live with one, is that what they do is they hide. Yeah? They hide because they actually want to get on with what they're doing. But what we found, and in our work on the EdTech 50, and we're publishing the EdTech 50 2020 on Thursday, and there may be a mention of an institution close to this one in the EdTech 50 again, but obviously I can't tell anybody about that. I've just tried to argue to Aftab that maybe the train fare won't be entirely wasted if he comes to the launch at Amazon HQ at 6 o'clock on Thursday, is that we've got to start being really proud about digital excellence. We've got to be really forthright, I think, across the sectors. Yeah? Too often, I think, we've allowed universities, the FE sector and schools to see themselves as somehow separate silos. We've got to start thinking of ourselves as an EdTech sector. We've got to start thinking of ourselves as profound a sector as the creative industries. We've got to be lobbying. We've got to be talking with government about investment in the boring stuff. Investment for our schools in super fast broadband. You may remember that fantastic quote from President Obama, that it is surely a question worth asking if your coffee shops have faster broadband speeds than your schools. And I think we should be asking that question as well of ourselves. And what I'd like to put to you is that challenges really do remain. And these are some of the challenges I just thought I'd want to share with you in my last 3.5 minutes as David is about to stare at me. That, as I said, the infrastructure is in really poor shape out there. We've got the main trunks, we've got the tree, but the actual last few miles to all of those schools have not been properly sorted out. I'd also argue, and I don't know what your experience is as educators, professionals, students, is that professional development, just because you're young and just because you're old, doesn't mean that you necessarily know, and it might sound a bit obvious, but you don't necessarily know how to use technology in your workplace. And also leadership. Leadership is absolutely crucial. And I pay real credit to the leadership of this institution, this group, the Bolton Group, that this innovation is happening here in Bolton College. Because if you haven't got a leadership that gets this, if you haven't got a leadership that understands that digital is about efficiency, it's about productivity, it's about collaboration, it's about not reinventing the wheel every time, then actually that is a poor show as well. And it's been proven, OU research 2-3 weeks ago, that senior leadership teams that have got themselves digital skills are more efficient, and guess what, that's a surprise, are more efficient, and their institutions are more efficient. And then I'd also put to you about legitimacy. I think time and time again, education technology it has suffered from being conflated, being confused with lots of different things. The loss of childhood, that somehow if we use EdTech in the classroom, we're somehow affecting childhoods, that we're somehow actually putting our children at risk, that this is a digital security issue. Well, if you get implementation right, right from the start, then your security should be, and cyber security should be absolutely watertight. I'd also think that some people think that EdTech is just social media with all the risks, the hopes, the opportunities that social media can expose you and young people to. Education technology, the use of tools, software, hardware, all sorts of things, and you know, whether it's in maths, whether it's in creative writing, whether it's in the arts, or whatever, it is, I think, of enormous benefit, an enormous benefit to young people. And my final plea is we've got to find ways of supporting those innovators. And when we publish that next EdTech 50, you won't be surprised. And please look at our website at about 6:30 Thursday if you want to download a copy of the EdTech 50 magazine. You won't be surprised that these innovators are doing what they do, but again, I think they're doing it in spite of the system and not because of the system. And I think that has to change. So what I'd like to see is us to take lessons from Wales. I'd like us to take some lessons from Scotland. I'd like us to take some lessons from Northern Ireland. And that moment of fear that I talked about was about in, as I said, 2013, 2014, a sense that digital learning wasn't just frozen in this country, in England, but was actually in danger of reversing. And I think that is very, very difficult. And if you have a government policy in education that seems conflicted time and time again over knowledge versus skills, then I think we're in fragile territory. If you think that education is just an end in itself for the creation, the understanding of knowledge and not skills as well, then I think it makes EdTech, it makes digital excellence much more difficult to adopt across our system. So it's difficult. We should celebrate. Let's not get carried away. I think we're now on catch-up as a country, but it is worth looking at what Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland are doing. And what that is, final point, is they're wrapping around the introduction of EdTech in schools and the introduction of EdTech for young people with all of those really important things, like digital literacy, like digital citizenship, like sharing with young people what digital jobs may look like, what a digital future, what it is to be a citizen. And I have to tell you, and you know this already, you've seen it in politics, you've perhaps experienced it in your own lives, your own relationships, but things, the future isn't what it used to be, as we know. And imagine, and you may have reflected on this yourself in those quieter times, but if you were growing up now, what would you be thinking about the world around you? Without a guide, without a teacher, and without an educator to take you through on that journey. So the landscape's good, the landscape's rich. Thank God, thank all our gods, thank whatever God, we've got places like Bolton College. Thankfully, we've got places like Olive Tree Primary just down the road. Thankfully, we've got teachers at the grammar school in Bolton, Boys Division, talking about EdTech and its benefits. And thank God we didn't scratch the camper van when we parked it outside Olive Tree Primary that day. We did crash on the ferry, obviously, but we didn't crash outside Olive Tree. So, thanks for your time. I'd be very interested in some of those challenges that I threw out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you particularly for sort of reminding us, well, not that we needed reminding, but the system does, that education is about the process of emancipation. And emancipation is about developing skills and developing independence in thinking and developing a sense of curiosity. And thank you too for sort of alluding to how sort of EdTech can help us do that. And unless we actually grasp that opportunity, I think we'll continue to sort of squander our resource. And thank you also for reminding us, again, not that we need it, but about how important college itself is sort of leading the agenda in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, some questions for Simon, please. So,
Or comments, please.
1, 2.
You did touch on connectivity then, broadband, fibre, stuff like that. Now, the reason they won't put it in places like Bolton, they won't put proper fibre in, is because there's not that demand. But there is a demand if you thought people like Bolton College, the university, the council, they all got together and they would, City Fibre, they actually said that they would put connections in if there was the demand there. So do you not think they should get together?
I do.
And get that demand?
That's a great idea, absolutely. What you've got is the most amazing infrastructure here in the country. I don't know if you've heard of it, everyone's heard of the Janet network. It is what I would imagine powers this college. It's a kind of FE and university, imagine a tree, yeah? So the Janet is like the trunk and the major branches, and it is literally the poster of the Janet network is what you'd imagine. It's incredible. But it's that last bit, yeah? That's what I tried to describe, that last mile or the last 2 miles. It's that last bit that's
you've got that fibre to the circuit,
yeah.
And then you need fibre to the premises. So they'll put that stuff in, and they'll put that equipment in, and they'll dig the roads, and they'll do the work if there's demand. So everyone should just get together as a town and say, yeah, we do want this.
But you've seen pictures of those villagers in Suffolk or wherever digging their own ditch to get.
And the government are now only taking people who are out of who are in the rural area. The fibre government scheme has stopped now for people in Bolton.
Sarah, I agree.
I just wanted to ask, in comparison to the UK, which other countries do you think have got the best EdTech model that we should follow?
Oh gosh, that's a good question.
You think we're not quite getting it right?
England.
Yeah. Which countries are? I just wondered, were there any particular countries that you think have a great model in terms of getting their EdTech out through education, schools,
I was really honest. I mean, I was quite depressed in 2013-14. I genuinely thought that's a great sound. The cavalry's on its way. I was really depressed in 2013-14. I thought the cause, let's call it the cause of digital learning. Do we all accept broadly in this room that technology can support learning? I think broadly you probably wouldn't be here at a digital excellence event. Do we broadly think that technology can support teachers? I am answering your question, I promise. Can it change learning?
Yes.
Yeah. So knowledge is good, to answer David, but also there is something about using that knowledge in amazing ways, learning new skills. Can also technology take you to new places in terms of creativity and the arts? I think broadly, we'd agree. And so what I witnessed in England, I think at that time in terms of the government, you had a revolving door at the Department for Education. Yeah, that didn't help. You had a real focus on this knowledge and only knowledge kind of mantra time and time again, and you heard it in terms of a traditional curriculum. Look, knowledge is great. Yeah, no one's saying that knowledge is not great. Yeah, no one is not saying that Shakespeare is great, but other people may have written other plays since Shakespeare, I think. So what we were trying to articulate was that actually EdTech could help with a number of the challenges that the profession and education in Britain was facing. And where would I look? I would look to places like Wales and I would look to places like Scotland. I would look to places like Wales. So, sometimes people would say, oh, let's all copy Finland. Or if you're a techie, let's copy Singapore. But actually, you don't need to go far to see a country. Don't forget they're independent in terms of education. So independent approaches, independent policies, independent tone. Yeah? And so Wales and Scotland are trying to basically use technology throughout the curriculum. They're also, I think, have a independent standards watchdog, the equivalent of our Ofsted, that are more interested in the potential of education technology. I could not say to you that Ofsted seem at this moment in time to be very interested in what technology could do for teaching and learning. There's also another reason why I would say that Wales and Scotland, two other reasons are interesting, is that they've both got national platforms of resources for teachers, videos lesson plans, insights into products that teachers may want to use on a national website, on a national platform. We don't have that. It's called the Hub, HWB, Hub in Wales, and it's called Glow in Scotland. A national platform with stuff on it tried and tested by teachers. It seems so obvious that we don't have one. And then final point I think about Wales and Scotland is that it's educator-led. None of this is going to work if it's led by the techies, he says. Just by the techies. It has to be led and it has to be directed, and it has to be totally, I would say, at the service of education and educators and learners.
And it's got to be embedded within a narrative and a vision of what education is. My own view is we've lost that over the last 10 years or so. Would you agree with me that perhaps we were further ahead 15 years ago in the early 2000s than we are now?
In terms of tech?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were. I think we're now playing very rapid catch-up. So the EdTech strategy, so why I've got cause for optimism, the EdTech strategy introduced last April has got some really interesting things. One of them is to create a national network in England of demonstrator schools and colleges. This will be 22 institutions acting like a lighthouse, like a beacon, to help schools in their near communities actually go on that EdTech journey. Second thing that I think you'll find of interest is that there are going to be test beds so that institutions that have not used technology can be twinned up with technology providers to literally test bed to use technology. And then thirdly, big challenges around, so the latest big challenge is what can EdTech do for teacher workload? So for instance, it's run by Nesta, this one, and it's a competition for the EdTech sector to respond to how they can support lightening teacher workload. And if you think of all the things that are out there, I think you can save hours for teachers in terms of, someone talked to me yesterday about, do you know how many pieces of work our school produces every 2 weeks? And I said, I haven't a clue. 60,000 pieces of work every 2 weeks. Now, I don't know the size of that school, I don't know how much homework that is, sounds like a lot. But actually, if you think about Bolton, think about this institution, think about that department, imagine how many pieces of work. So that's why it's interesting where you're going next in terms of your thinking here in Bolton, about how do you process all that stuff? How do you just deal with the volume of all that stuff? How can a human being do all that? So that's why that, where that goes, AI, where that machine learning goes, again, mediated by human beings, is absolutely fascinating, I think.
Gee, thank you very much indeed.